Excuse me for using notes, but my brother always told me when you don't know what you're talking about, always use notes. Then the audience will think you know what you're talking about. This is an ancient political technique. I am David Kesterton, brother of Michael Kesterton. I left a card somewhere. Please take one. I have placed on it an email address. Rogers prematurely deleted his email, so I'm using it for anything related to Michael, including Michael. I would be very pleased to eventually hear from all of you. Those of you who are here because of Michael, and those of you who may be here because of the free food. Just a quick announcement, there is no free food. That was a rumor started by me to fill the hall. If you remain now, I know it will be because of Michael and not the imaginary free food. I want to tell you some things about Michael that nobody knows but me. This means I have to let you in on a secret. I like that word. It gets everybody's attention. Contrary to what you may have anticipated, I remember when I first met Michael. I had just been born a few days previously. The servants, and Ad, later for convenience rechristened Mom and Dad, escorted me to my quarters in Regina. It wasn't long before, during a quiet few moments of meditation, that I heard unnatural scurrying sounds. I was hoping it might be a cat or a dog or some other fluffy thing, as I was into fluffy things at that time. Instead, it appeared to be otherwise. I quickly determined that it was anthropomorphic. I'm teaching my wife the word, so that's why I used it here. It had two owlish eyes and rounded forehead, and kept twisting its head sideways to investigate me. It appeared initially and subsequently to be non-hostile. It turned out to be an elf, or what looked like an elf. Elves were known to inhabit abodes which had just been blessed by noble additions to the family. We were nobility, but it was a secret to everyone, so we pretended to be ordinary people living in Regina, Saskatchewan. When I first confronted the elf, I was not sure of its role, but I was later to learn that it was instructed to be my precursor, sort of like a parakeet in a mine. Anything hostile about, and it would encounter it first, taste the food first, trip on the carpet first, fall through a hole in the loo first, generally speaking, make a path for myself. The name of the elf was Michael. My mother, being Irish, had gone back to Old Gaelic and chosen that word, which actually means, oops, not quite right. Why don't we give it another shot sometime? It was natural to give me the ancient Middle Eastern name of David, which in ancient Egyptian means, there you go now, that's what I'm talking about. I was unaware of what Michael's function was until I discovered what great toys he had. He had already tested them, so when I came forth during the daylight hours and had developed a bit of mobility, anything and everything was available to me. Electric trains, roly things, squeaking things, bright yellow things, and so forth. Michael was only too glad to let me use his stuff. Well, not always, but he didn't have much choice. I soon became bigger than him, and if I got there first, it was goodbye, Charlie, mine. It was the elf that taught me the local dialect, English, which the servants spoke. The vocabulary was fairly simple. It consisted mostly of two words, no and don't. Usually in the phrases, don't touch that, don't put that into your mouth, and don't eat that. Later on, we added the word stop. Stop touching that, stop eating that, stop putting that in your ear. Michael became my best friend. He taught me the ways of the servants. He taught me the best ways to accomplish what I absolutely needed to accomplish. He taught me to walk and how to pretend that I could not walk, so that when the servants' backs were turned, I could accomplish a considerable amount of my agenda without interruption. I learned later that royalty normally traveled in pairs. Some of the greatest teams were pairs. Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, Cheech and Chong, and we soon learned how to distract the servants with our antics. Those of you unfortunate people who don't have a sibling and are called only children, I sympathize with. Your only team model is considered to be such as Gog and Magog and Jekyll and Hyde. Both are rather psychopathic in nature. So Michael preceded me in everything. He did it first, so I wouldn't have to risk anything. He went to school first, taught me many wonders of kindergarten. He was the first to have a girlfriend and give me appropriate warnings of the inherent dangers therein. Initially, my parents got to practice on Michael. He got the first speech about puberty and mating. After that fiasco, the servants learned better not to try so hard, just to let nature take its course. So we're out shopping, and Dad is looking away, whistling. David is watching a pair of dogs dancing. Just pretend you don't notice. David will be just fine, thank you. He'll figure it all out by himself. No unnecessary guidance is required. So Michael and I grew up together virtually untrained. We trained ourselves. Or should I say, Michael trained me. We assisted one another. As I grew into an ogre, and as he remained an elf, I got the new clothes. Michael got the hand-me-downs. Nature had reached an appropriate balance. I was taller, so I got the long end of the stick. Michael was shorter. He easily accepted that destiny had given him the short end of the stick. Who am I to argue with the ways of Mount Olympus? As it turned out, Michael never forgot his function, and as always, he did things first. And now he has done it again, preparing a path for myself. Thank you, Michael. You're the best elf brother a royal prince could have ever wished for. Just stay out of the light for now until I get there, as there are some things I have to protect you from, as you are not as prepared as I am. Again, please get a card with an email on it. I want to hear from everybody. Thank you. Daily Journal, David Kesterton, August the 7th, 2015. At about 11:10 a.m. Michael phoned. We are to meet at the High Park subway station near the ticket booth by 11:45 a.m. I took my video camera, the small one, and arrived at the stop at exactly the same moment Michael arrived from the opposite direction. I called to him, but he didn't hear me. I filmed him going down the station to the escalator, then ran up the escalator on my side and saw him in the middle. I filmed a few small scenes of this. We did one long walk around the middle of the part of High Park, with me recording a few scenes. The weather was good, the sun was bright. Michael gave me his jacket to hold as he had overdressed, but I really should have had sunscreen. When we reached the High Park entrance again, we headed east to the Keele subway entrance. I gave him back his jacket, and then we each went our separate way home.